Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Rustin, and we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. And we have been so fortunate to have a lot of tremendous guests on our show over the last 2 years. But I'm telling you what, today may be the best of all. This is the pinnacle of Tennessee outdoors and recreation. This is pretty awesome. Today we have Bass Angler of the Year, 3-time Bass Angler of the Year, 23 national bass titles. He has an honorary doctorate of natural resources from the University of Tennessee, and he is the host of the longest running and most successful fishing show in television history. Ladies and gentlemen, we are thrilled to have the man, the legend, the doctor, Bill Dance with us. Thank you so much, Mr. Dance, for joining us.
Hey, it's good to be with you, buddy. It really is. I like
This
that
is
orange and white.
Amen, brother. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. So, Mr. Dance, just a cool little connection we've got. We, Rustin and I both grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Our show was based out of the Chattanooga area. And so you grew up just probably an hour, maybe hour and a half at the most away from us.
It's a little less than 2 hours over Moore County in Lynchburg.
That's really cool. It's awesome having you with us. So speaking of being a Tennessean, you were just recently given a really nice honor from the Tennessee House of Representatives and the Senate. Received a proclamation for being an exemplary Tennessean. What did that mean to you when you were given that honor by our state Senate and House?
Well, it was really awesome to go there and walk down the aisle at the House, and all the congressmen, some of the senators, and everybody that makes Tennessee click. I had met with the governor about 20 minutes. We had a meeting for about 20 minutes talking about our signature lakes across the state. And then I went right into the House, and the feeling, it's probably hard for somebody to understand. People say, well, I know exactly how you feel. Well, unless they are there and inside me, it's very difficult for them to feel what I'm feeling. It's like if you stick a hook in your finger, you feel the pain, and somebody says, "Oh, I know how that feels." Well, that hook's not in his finger; it's in mine. So it's real hard to explain a feeling unless you are that person or there. But to give you a quick answer, it was extremely awesome to be there in the Capitol and be with so many influential people, and to get to talk to Governor Lee. And he's just a great, great guy. I've been with him on several occasions, and he believes in the program that we're doing. And he's just a down-to-earth guy. He comes to work in blue jeans and boots and a sport coat. And I can relate to that. But I'm not saying our governor's a redneck, but he's just down to earth and a great, great guy. And him giving us the opportunity and $20 million to do work on lakes throughout the state, from East Tennessee all the way over here to the Mississippi River. He believed in a program trying to raise awareness and raise the economy in some of these distressed areas. And by us going in and doing above and below work on quite a few lakes across the country, improving boat ramps, concession stands, bathrooms above and below, putting in fish attractors, key structural features into the lake, and then stocking the lake with like bluegill, like catfish. Some of the lakes will be bass fishing. It'll be a bass fishing lake. The lake right outside Memphis, Herb Parsons, was our first lake. We're working hard on that one right now. It was a WMA lake, and of all the WMA lakes across the state, this particular one, Herb Parsons, is about 3 miles from where I'm sitting, is one of our lakes. And it wasn't supposed to be, because we were going to do park lakes and then bigger type lakes. But talking to the governor, I said, we just got to have Herb Parsons as a pilot lake. And he agreed. And so he gave us permission to start working on Herb Parsons, which is coming along real good. We've built a ramp that'll service 7 cars and trailers, a beautiful, beautiful aluminum pier for people to stand on and fish. And it's just been, this whole ride with my home state of Tennessee, it's just been special. And I've had a lot of great people that made a lot of this happen for Bill Dance.
So I'm curious, for those
you asked me 5 minutes ago.
That's all right.
This feeling is just it's a wonderful feeling. I'm very honored, just like I was when I received a doctorate degree at UT. It's just a very special moment in my life, and it's one I'll never forget, and my family will never forget. So it's very, very special, and I don't know what else I can really say about it, but it really meant a lot. It was an awesome event. Receiving an award I got one from the Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, and then the one from Tennessee, and then this big award from the representatives, senators, and people of the House voted to present me this award, and it really means a lot. It really means a lot.
So you mentioned the lakes that have been happening throughout Tennessee and what's going on with the governor. For our listeners who aren't real sure what you're referring to, in the last year, Governor Lee proclaimed 14 different lakes throughout Tennessee as Bill Dance signature lakes. What was involved in determining which lakes they chose? How did that come about?
Well, some of his people got with us. They got with Tennessee. Tennessee Tourism is another major player in this, and Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, along with the state of Tennessee, Governor Lee. We looked at distressed areas that needed a kick in the pants, and we went over. It was 18 lakes, and we went over different areas as to the population surrounding the area, and how far it was from a bigger city. But mostly in these little distressed areas, it's what we centered in on. So you take Herb Parsons, for instance, right outside Memphis, you've got about 6 or 8 small towns that can be affected with this particular lake. And we're going to make this a pilot lake. We're going to grow we know how to grow big bluegill. We know how to grow catfish. We're not putting a lot of effort on bass in Herb Parsons because it's got a good population of largemouth bass in it. But the effort to improve, and when you come to these lakes, you're going to catch fish, and you're going to catch lots of fish. And we're going to see to that. They keep these lakes well stocked, and water quality check, working with it once a month. And also, what we've learned from Herb Parson, we'll move it to another body of water like Fall Creek Falls. It's coming on pretty strong too. So we're working with these little areas, and distressed areas is what the governor wanted. We're bringing a lake into that. Some of the lakes are already there, but to improve that body of water with forage, with the predator-prey relationship, balancing out the water qualities, and feeding the fish in that lake with high protein forage. It's going to be a good thing. It really is. And we've been working real hard on that with Tennessee Tourism, with the state of Tennessee. And then we have a team that knows a lot about habitat and habits and habitat, of the quarry and what it takes to build a lake and manage the lake. So we're on track with everything we're doing, and that's as a result of our major sponsors like Tennessee Tourism, which has been a sponsor of our outdoor show for 12 to 15 years now. And then we've got the state of Tennessee, Governor Lee, and then we've got Tennessee Tourism. So with
So you mentioned Tennessee Tourism there. So I believe Dennis Tumlin has worked with you.
oh yeah,
Is that
Dennis,
right?
oh, Dennis is one of my best buddies. He's
a great guy.
I'll tell you something about Dennis that a lot of people don't know. Dennis was the #1 Coca-Cola salesman in the country. He alone has sold more Coca-Colas to America than any other single individual. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Wow. I did not know that.
Oh, he did. And he received all kind of awards, but he's the =1 Coca-Cola salesman in the country.
How about that? I've known Dennis for probably, oh goodness, 7, 8, 6, at least 6, maybe 7 or 8 years. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's kind of a shy boy, you know what I mean. And he likes for me to tell America that knows him of his great accomplishments of being able to be the #1 Coca-Cola salesman in the country. If you don't do that, he's very sensitive. You gotta kind of work with Dennis, but he's a great friend and a tremendous supporter of our lake program and the Bill Dance giant bass events that we're putting on across the state.
That's awesome. And those events are for youth and adults, correct?
Pardon?
Those events, those giant bass events, those are for youth and adults. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's awesome. So you probably also worked then with Shane Frazier and Brent Brady. I've
Absolutely.
known Brent for, I've probably known Brent for at least 10 years, maybe 12. He's a tremendous guy. I love Brent.
He is. Yeah. They're all three of them that you just mentioned are great guys, and excuse me, are helping our program big time.
So let's kind of go back in time a little bit. You were on the tournament trail, you're competing in bass fishing, and you start transitioning to television. What caused that transition? What led to you moving to television?
Well, it's a long story, but I'll just kind of fast forward. I was competing in the tournaments, and one day the promoter of that tournament, Ray Scott, who founded BASS, Bass Angler Sportsman Society, we were sitting there having breakfast or dinner one night, not breakfast and dinner, but dinner one night. And he looked at me and he said, "I'm going to tell you something you're not going to believe." And I said, "Tell me." And Ray was a good friend. And we lost Ray a couple of years ago, who did more for, the sport of fishing than anybody. But he looked at me and he said, "Bill, someday, I don't know when, but one day you're going to realize that these tournaments, are just a stepping stone. It's your number one toy right now to play with. But as time goes on, that toy will be destroyed or removed from your list, and you'll move on to other things. So do the best you can do, and one door will close, but another will open." And he was right. And I said, somebody else told me the same thing, was my wife, Diane. This was just a stepping stone for bigger, better things. It's like Kevin Van Dam. Kevin's a good buddy of mine, and we've talked quite a bit about his involvement. He was a crackerjack bass fisherman, won many tournaments, bass angler tournaments, and he retired. And he's getting into TV now, so he's going to have a television show, and I can assure you it'll be a real good one. Uh, the tournaments were just a stepping stone for him, just like me. So I've been where he is now, and we talked about various things, how he can grow into television and what he needs to do, and where I failed, and then where I gained a better position. I passed those pros and cons on to him. The tournaments, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today had it not been for the tournaments. And I started a local show in Memphis, and then took that show, a sister station, to our ABC affiliate, WHBQ, was sports minded, and their sister station in Jackson, Mississippi, called me and said, "You mind doing a show for us?" And I said, "No." And I looked at the capital of Jackson, Mississippi. I looked at the game and fish, boating safety. Everything was centered around in Jackson. And shortly after I started, Baton Rouge, WBRZ, Channel 2, contacted me through the Jackson outlet and said, "Would you be willing to do a show for us? We have sponsors." And I said, "Yeah." So what I was doing, I started out doing Memphis, which I was doing for a couple of years. Then I put the show Bill Dance Outdoors in Jackson, Mississippi, Baton Rouge. And then I got a call one day from J.C. Penney. Now, believe it or not, they used to stock sporting goods. And the manager at the store said, "We need some type of outdoor sponsorship, and would you be willing to do a show for us?" And I said, "Sure." Well, I didn't really realize how big a chore that was, but I had to stop tournament fishing for a year to get everything done. I was scripting my own shows. I was editing my own shows. I was shooting my own shows, traveling from Paducah, Kentucky, all the way to Baton Rouge, and shooting shows in between and mixing the shows up. I might show what fishing's like in southern Mississippi this week. Next week, a show in Memphis. Next week, one up on Kentucky Lake, or up on the north on the Mississippi River, anything close to those four markets. But I was doing four markets 52 weeks a year. So that's 208 outdoor shows I was doing. And it was goodness gracious. I had a lot to learn, and learning how to shoot, learning how to edit, learning how to script write. And then I met a lot of great people doing that. And then one day, a syndicator said, "Hey, you want to syndicate your show?" And I said, "What would that entail?" "You just do one show." So I gave my show in Baton Rouge, to a good friend who I had as a guest, and he caught on to it real quick. Another good friend in Jackson. And then I quit the show in Kentucky, and I just stayed with Memphis for a few more years, about another year. And we syndicated Bill Dance Outdoors and went into 50 network markets, and then we jumped to 90 network markets. Well, the cost of network TV was screaming. I mean, it was just, the price was just climbing. But cable was coming on. And we looked into cable, and it was a network over in Nashville called TNN, the Nashville Network. And it was a B market. Demographically, we hit a home run when we went with TNN. We picked up major sponsors like Walmart, Purina, Tennessee Tourism. Of course, they stayed with us. Mercury Marine was with us, and that's about oldest sponsor, Mercury. And we, the cable, the demographics were just perfect. They had country western music. They had bull riding. They had NASCAR, and then they had fishing. And they didn't have hunting shows back then, but they did have a lot of fishing shows that came over to TNN. And we rocked along with TNN for about 15 years. And Gaylord Enterprises and Opryland and that started to change, and it went away, TNN. And we jumped to another network called Outdoor Life. And we rocked along with them for about a year. And then we were approached by the Discovery Channel. Would you be interested in doing a show? So we looked at it and we said, sure. The reach they had was tremendous. So we signed on with that network. And then right after that, NBC Sports contacted us, and we went with NBC Sports. And then two other networks were real strong, the Outdoor Channel and the Sportsman Channel. Well, after about 2 years of running Discovery and NBC Sports, we realized that they're great networks. Not to say they aren't, because they are. They're great networks, even today. But the expense of running on those two networks versus what we could run on the Outdoor Channel and the Sportsman Channel, we knew it was the best move for us. So what we did, we started a saltwater show. We put that show on the Sportsman Channel that airs today 52 times a year, every week. There's 3 to 4, the same airings, 3 to 4 times. And then the Outdoor Channel, we moved to them with freshwater, which they run 52 times a year. So our total, we'll run this year and next year 1,040 times. Bill Dance Outdoors will air, or Bill Dance Saltwater will air.
That's awesome.
So we've kind of been all the way around the block with what we've done and where we are today. Our numbers are good, but one other thing that's really boomed is our social media. We're climbing now to well over 2 million followers.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
5 million, and that's really, really been good for our sponsors, because we can take a product and talk about that product where it doesn't look like a commercial, but it's pretty hard to write a spot. But it's a tip type spot, and
that's great.
And then TikTok is booming. YouTube is booming. All 4 platforms that we're on our numbers are just they're climbing every week. So
how can people find you on those platforms?
Pardon?
How can people find you on those platforms? Is it at Bill Dance Outdoors?
Yeah.
I never, when we started this interview, I never would have imagined that I would hear Bill Dance say, our TikTok is booming. That is not a sentence I was anticipating today.
No. What it is, I got the idea, and I said, that goofy looking stuff I see on TikTok, we've got a bunch of goofy looking stuff. Said, well, what are you going to do? I said, let's take some of our bloopers and see if they'll run us. And they agreed, and we signed on with TikTok, and we get fabulous numbers from that. We'll take a blooper and show a blooper, and
that's
awesome. So many bloopers. We can do a blooper every day, but sure. The bloopers really helped, and that helped build the numbers. And now we're on a roll with TikTok. YouTube is still real big for us. Twitter is doing great for us. And what other network are we on?
Probably Instagram.
Instagram, there you go. Thank you.
Yep.
And so
that's awesome.
It's powerfully big. And
well, having been on television for literally decades, we know that
54 years.
Holy
there
cow.
You go. So we know you have had a lot of memorable moments. We know you've had presidents on your show, celebrities on your show, professional athletes on your show. I heard there was one pretty good story about Terry Bradshaw, but uh, is there any particular story or episode that you look back on and it's like one of your favorites just because of what happened on that show?
Well, all the entertainers, either sports figures or country entertainers, I look at Porter Wagner. I had some funny stuff with him. Jerry Reed. Well, I love Jerry. I looked at Little Jimmy Dickens. I looked at Loretta Lynn. I looked at Roy Clark. I think there's probably more, but they all love to fish. And so we did shows and outtakes and bloopers that they made on those type shows, or funny things that happened. And the same thing with sport figures. Terry was a good one. We did probably 7 or 8 shows with Bradshaw. Mel Tillis was another one. To pick one particular thing is hard to do because there was a bunch of them. I mean, a bunch of them.
I can imagine.
If people watched our bloopers, they can see that they vary. They vary, maybe with an entertainer or a goof up I made, which is not hard to do. That's the truth. But I just look back at all those are special moments. And to look back now, Porter's gone, Little Jimmy's gone. I look at the great entertainers. Loretta's gone, Conway's gone, Conway Twitty's gone. I just look back at all the celebrities and the people that just down to earth people. They're just they put their pants on just like I put my pants on, and like everybody.
Sure.
But I'm just fortunate that I got in a position to be able to do what I do, and I've learned a lot about as we go along. People say, "Well, what have you learned?" I said, "I've learned a lot. I mean, I've learned from East Coast fishermen to West Coast fishermen, from Canada to Mexico, and even in Guam, where the show airs, and it's just to try to pick something, one particular thing is kind of hard to do. I can tell you some funny stuff, but you wouldn't want to hear it. But they say the easiest thing to remember is something funny.
But you save those for TikTok, right?
Yeah. And then somebody said, "Where'd you get your TCAP?" And I said, "Well, one day."
That was our next question, so I'm glad you asked that.
I was actually literally about to ask that question.
Yeah, we got ESPN or whatever it is. But anyway, I got a phone call from the University of Tennessee, and Doug Matthews, he was a recruiter.
Yep.
He said, "Coach, Doug Dickey wants asked me to ask you, would you do him a big favor?" And I said, "Sure." There's a recruit in Southern Georgia, or there was a recruit in Florida, or a recruit in Tennessee that likes to fish. Would you call him and talk to him and tell him what Tennessee has to offer our state, our football program? And I said, "Yep, I'll do it." So I would get the number of this particular recruit, like Tommy Sanders. And I called Tommy. You remember Tommy?
Yep.
And, I don't know where Tommy is today, but I called him and told him about Tennessee, and he signed with Tennessee. He was a good player for the university. Of all the ones, I'm trying to think. I can't tell you how many. Some names are still recognizable, but I can't think of them. But I bragged about Tennessee football. Well, I grew up in Lynchburg, and another great coach that coached Tennessee was Johnny Majors. Well, I knew Johnny when I was little. The first job he ever had, he worked for my granddaddy. And John was a little bit older than I was, but his younger brother, Larry, and the whole family, Coach Majors, he coached the Lynchburg Raiders for 4.5 years, and they were undefeated. And then Coach Majors moved to Shirley Majors moved to Huntland, and he coached there. And then he got a job at Sewanee, coaching there. And then he got into the Canadian Football League. But John would come when he was coaching at UT. Then he came back. He went to Pittsburgh, became the coach of the year, and then he came back to Tennessee and started coaching again. I think that's the way it went. But anyway, he would come to Memphis 2 or 3 times a year to talk to at the Tennessee Booster Club or whatever. And they'd ask me, can I take you fishing? And John he wasn't much of a fisherman, but he tried real hard. But there were several years, and we'd talk about old times and Lynchburg and Shirley, his daddy, how he moved on to Sewanee and what he was doing and what Bill was doing now. He was they ran a single wing back then, and that's what John, when he quarterbacked. And then Bill went there. We talked about just good old times. His mother, Elizabeth, and my great-grandmother were real good friends. They lived next door to each other. And my great-grandmother would cook pies and cakes for the Major boys. And he said, I remember a little of that, but I don't think my other brothers wanted me to know because I eat more than they do. And we had some great times. I remember one time we were on an oxbow lake in North Mississippi. John came in for a couple of days. I picked him up, and we were going down the edge of this oxbow lake that was cypress lined, big cypress, this 200 or 300-year-old cypress trees that outlined the lake. And there was cypress balls on the cypress trees. And if you ever squirrel hunted, you couldn't eat a squirrel that was cut in cypress balls. It was the worst tasted thing. It'd make a green persimmon taste like sweet and low. But anyway, I reached up and I just pulled one off the tree limb as we were fishing the base of these cypress trees. And I took my hand and I put it up to my mouth, and I went something half over here, and my jaw poked out, and I acted like I was chewing like this. He looked at me and he looked at those cypress balls, and he said, Billy, that's what my grandmother used to call me. He said, Billy, what is that? And I said, they're cypress balls. And he said, what do they taste like? And I said, do you like pecans? He said, I love pecans. I said, you do like pecans? He said, yeah, I love pecans. And I didn't say another word. He reached up and pulled one off the next tree we passed. And he looked at it and he rubbed it on his shirt and kind of blew it off. He pitched it in his mouth and he crunched down on it. And when he crunched down on it, his mouth just locked up. He couldn't even talk. And he went, oh. And I said, what's wrong? And he went, I said, I can't understand you. And he pointed his mouth. He went, and he leaned over the boat and he went, he spit. And I knew he was level-headed because that green cypress ball juice was running down his chin. And he went, and he reached down in the lake and got a handful of lake water. It had a plankton bloom on it, but he didn't care. And he went, go. And he went, and I said, what is it? And he went, I can't. He said, look. He said, dirty trick, Billy, dirty trick. Said they taste like pecans. I said, no, Coach. I never said they taste like pecan. I just said, do you like pecans? Weird. He went, he'll still, dirty trick. He said, I tell you right now, you know how I feel about Ole Miss? I said, yeah. He said, I'd rather them beat me 10 times is to eat another one of those nasty things. But,
that's awesome.
Johnny was a great guy, and Doug Dickey was too. And I talked to Doug Dickey about a year ago. He's living in Jacksonville, Florida, and Jeff Largo, who calls the Jaguar games. Is it the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And Jeff calls their games. And we went fishing one day. And after that, he called me back. And we were sitting there talking. And he said, you know who's listening to us right now? And I said, no. He said, Coach Dickey. And I said, can you hook us up? He said, I got us hooked up. And I said, Coach. He said, hey, Bill, how you doing? And he looked great. He was happy that I'd called him. And where I'm going with all this, after helping them recruit, I got 2 teacaps mailed to me, and he sent me my first 2 teacaps. In fact, this is one of them. No, I'm not kidding. It's not. I've gone through hundreds of them, but
I'm sure
get dirty, and they've given a lot of them away. But anyway, he called me and he said, I want you to know how much I appreciate what you've done for our athletic program and helping. And I said, well, you're more than welcome. And he said, we got a big game coming up. And if there's any way possible for you to come over and walk out on the field on the 50-yard line with me, it's our homecoming game. And it'll probably be the last year I'll be at Tennessee, before he went to Florida and became AD. And then he became coach. Then he came back to Tennessee as AD. And I said, Coach, y'all are playing Miami that week. And he said, yeah. And I said, I have got a promotion I can't get out of. It's a sponsored promotion. They'd been advertising for a while. And I said, I just can't get out of it. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you offering me a trip with you out to the center of the field at UT, at the stadium there. He said, well, maybe we could do it, or somebody else can do it at another time. And I said, well, I sure do appreciate it. And I appreciate the 2 teacaps. And he said, you need any more? And he said, how about Florida? I said, what about Florida? Have they got a football team? He said, yeah, we got a pretty good one. And I said, no, I'm going to ride with you two. I said, I was born in Tennessee, married a girl from Tennessee. All my children were born in Tennessee. My grandparents born in Tennessee. I caught my first bass in Tennessee. I caught my biggest smallmouth in Tennessee. Caught my largest smallmouth in Tennessee. I don't know. Everything I've done pertains to Tennessee, and that's where I was born. Where when I die, I hope I die in my home state. But the Tennessee football program, Tennessee basketball program, from Rick Barnes to Tony. I can't pronounce his last name.
Vitello. Yeah, that's right.
And then, of course, Josh, our football coach. I got a big lab trying to get up my lap right now. Sorry. But we've had a good time in Tennessee.
Well, let me ask you this. I'll save this question for last. As a Tennessee fan, because this is a Tennessee sports podcast,
Right.
So as a Tennessee fan, what is your favorite Tennessee Vols sports memory?
Oh my gosh! There's about Listening to John Ward call a football game was a big memory.
Amen, brother.
Boy, I love John Ward, and
The best ever.
and give him 6. And he was just a great. I remember him probably more than anything. And the next thing that comes into play was when Tennessee. That was in 1998. Maybe I'm wrong on the date, when they became national champions. They beat Florida State.
Yes, sir.
And that was a very memorable moment. I love Tennessee, and I love Tennessee football. I love even girls. I watch the girls play. They're great too. I think they could beat the boys sometime. But they everything about Bill Dance centers around Tennessee, and to receive those awards were part of it. But I've had outdoor writers ask me, what can you name me the most special thing that's happened to you? Was it a tournament you won? Was it an award you won? Was it a big fish you caught or a big fish you lost? What was it? And I said, well, my biggest thrill was watching each one of my children catch their first fish. And now watching every one of my grandchildren catch their very first fish. And to watch a child catch a fish, and the excitement level is just untouched.
Yep.
I've got a little boy at St. Jude right now. We've become real good buddies. He's has brain cancer, and he's come out to the house, and we fished the lake there at the house, and he's caught a bunch of catfish. And I talk to his mom and dad and him at least once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. But to watch him, that's a very special moment. So I've had a lot of special moments in my life with the tournaments, with people I've met along the way, entertainers. It's just I've had a great life. I really have, and I wouldn't take anything for it. I've met a lot of great people, fishermen just like me, and I've met a lot of people in the public eye that do the same thing I do, talk to people and try to teach people how to fish. And our shows are tailored more to how to than catching. And I think when you can entertain and educate at the same time, you've got the best part of both worlds. So that's where I am. And someone said, how long are you going to do this? I said, I hope to do it forever, and then a little bit more.
Amen. Absolutely.
Thank
Well,
you.
you just mentioned a lot of great moments in your life. So you're about to have another one. And I mean, winning, multiple 3-time Bass Angler of the Year, that's pretty awesome. Getting an honorary doctorate, that's pretty awesome too. I don't think this will top watching your grandkids catch their first fish, but it'll be a close second. Just so you know, every person who joins our show as a guest, as a thank you to them, we send them a t-shirt. Since it's the Vol Bros, you are now an honorary bro. And so Bill Dance, you are an honorary bro. We're going to send you a t-shirt that looks just like that. It's gray. It's got honorary bro on it. It is our thank you to you for taking your time to join us. And I mean, like I said, being on TV for 50 something years, that's pretty awesome, but this might be the pinnacle of your career. This is a major moment that you are now an honorary bro.
Well, I appreciate it, Vol Brothers. I really do.
So I came up with this idea when we first started this, and it has now become one of my greatest regrets, because we have done this to so many celebrities. And I sit here the whole time going, oh, no, he's not doing it. Oh, yes, he is doing it.
Oh, that's great. Y'all do a great job. I'll say that.
Well, thank you so much. And we are tremendously appreciative of you taking your time to join us. And we
anytime. I'm always around. I'm close as your phone. So anything I can do to help, just feel free to give me a call.
Thank you so much. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, guys. Let me hear from you from time to time. Good
Well,
luck. And thanks so much.